Hi, and welcome to A Punk with Toys. My name is Lawrence. In this classic review, once again, we go back to the 80s and we're taking a look at the G.I. Joe O-Ring Cobra Officer. And if you watched the Cobra video that I did, I mentioned I always liked the Cobra Officer more. He was my favorite. I did have him, and I actually didn't have the regular Cobra for quite some time. But anyway, we're going to take a look at this guy. I don't have the straight arm. I only have the wonderful swivel arm with his AK-47. We're going to take a look at him, look at his detail, his design on it. I absolutely love this figure. And if you're wondering, why the hell would anyone go back and review figures that are 40 years old? Well, a lot of us never had these. And a lot of people, maybe they just see it and it's like, wow, this brings back memories. But the biggest reason really is when I started reviewing classified figures and I started comparing them to the O-rings, I started noticing details that we never saw before because, once again, we were kids, not collectors. We were playing with our toys, not just collecting. So that is one of the reasons why I'm reviewing these. But hey, you don't want to hear any more of that. I've told you that. You've been watching this whole series, so you know that. Unless if you're new. But anyway, let's get into this. But before we do, please take a second if you like this type of stuff and you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell notification. Then you'll be notified every time I drop a classic review or anything else. All right, so here we have this absolute beautiful, one of the best looking figures you'll ever see, the Cobra Officer. And like I said, this was the one that I actually had. I don't believe this is my original one, as that Cobra symbol is in way too nice a shape, and he's actually pretty solid. Anyway, we'll start and take a look at the weapons as we always do. And here is the AK-47. I can tell you this is my original AK-47, or at least one of them, because I had this real bad issue of chewing on things. And you can kind of tell I may have chewed on this a little bit. So anyway, we have this stock. Again, it's not supposed to look like that. That would be a little punk teeth marks back in the day. You have this big, long banana clip magazine. I should call it a banana magazine. Don't call it a clip. People will yell at you. You got your grip here. Nice barrel. You got your sights right there. And then you got your foregrip right up there. The grip, I guess maybe it's not called a foregrip. Real nice detail for what you could do back in the 80s. And again, I think we all fell in love with the AK-47 because of stuff like this. The movie Commando wasn't an AK-47, but looked very similar. All right, so here we're going to take a look at this. And as I mentioned before, there aren't a lot of things that are reused on these two figures. And I think maybe we can take a quick look at some of them. But we'll start off with the helmet. So that's the whole mask, all right? He has this chevron right on the top here. It does show that he's an officer. So that's not going to look the same as the Cobra. The eyes, again, very similar. Just a black dot. A little bit of black on the top there. And then obviously the eyebrow, which gives it some sort of facial feature to him. You can see even a little bit of crease, which is kind of running down there. And as I kind of focused here, you can see that the mask looks like it's supposed to. It's looking at his face here. Here he has a little bit of, I would assume, another insignia showing off his rank. And then you have the silver Cobra symbol, which definitely makes it pop way more. Over on the arms, we don't have the bullets that I know a lot of people really liked, and I pointed that out. And we also don't have the fishing wire on this side, but we do have painted gloves. So if you ever come across a figure, Cobra, that doesn't have either that or the hands, or has it's all blue, then you know they've swapped the arms. His web gear, I love it just has this nice little gray right up on top here. And then it's made to look completely different with all these pouches, all right? So they completely broke this apart. And who would have ever thought that, especially with G.I. Joe reusing so many of the bucks in that first wave, that they would do that. You have this H-strap here. Again, all this stuff is completely different, completely setting these two figures apart. Now, when you get to the waist here, this I do believe is the exact same. as we go across. There are no belt loops on it. It's just a plain, well, I guess it's not a plain. It is a striped belt here. And then you just got a couple little pouches, and then you have the clasp right there. All right, and then down to the leg right here. This is the same type of knife. All right, that is supposed to be on it. Oh no, actually, look, they're two different knives. I think I knew that at one time. So, even the knives, even though they're very similar, the same with Cobra Commander. Are they the same Cobra Commanders? I think that upper leg, that thigh, is the same as Cobra Commander's. You may have just seen what's going to come next. But I always thought there was no sheath on it. You can see the little clasps there. All right. I don't even think I noticed that these ones had clasps. Look, they did. So I didn't even notice that on the Cobra. But that little bit of detail really goes far. And on the handle here, you got the same insignia, and I do remember that. That's in another one. It's on Cobra Commander's belt. So, should be showing Cobra Commander. That's for the next video. Here we have the boots. Again, completely different than what we have here, because he doesn't have the shin guards, which I talked about how much I really like those. So you look at this figure, a wonderful looking figure, and again, at this point here, the heads did not go down; they only swiveled back and forth. You have the screw in the back. You could put a backpack on there. The rivets were ionized, right, to make it look like the color that it's supposed to be. And I think that's why it never, again, when I see some of the newer ones, when they paint them, it just doesn't look right. This looks good because it just looks like a very natural color. It's funny how people are so mad and they hate pinned joints, yet here we are this many years ago, no one ever gave crap about the rivets. So there you go. Here's this T-pose, the swivel arm, which is absolutely awesome. These figures got a little bit over 90 degrees. No wrist swivel. Again, that's what I really do love about some of the modern O-ring figures, 3.75 figures that are out there. You have the O-ring, and this is a new, I can tell you this is a new O-ring because it is extremely tight there. And you just swivel back and forth if need be. Here's Jean-Claude Van Damme, not that great, but these were meant to go in the L pose, so they could fit in a Stinger, a Vamp. Matter of fact, they didn't have the Stinger yet, but the Vamp or whoever. And then, of course, the knees go about 90 degrees. And they all had pegs other than Scarlet. So if you do need to stand them, you need to use your pegs. If you, going further on, the back of the Stinger they could peg onto, the All Striker, different vehicles like that. So that is your classic review of your Cobra Officer. Again, I think this is one of the best looking figures they have ever made, period, bar none. It is very simple in design, but there is so much detail in here that we didn't ever notice. I mean, just looking at the fact that this pouch here is gray, you know? This pouch is gray with the same color palette or pattern that is on the padding here. And to put padding on there just so, hey, look at this. Our Cobra officers, they're not going to be, their straps aren't going to be digging into them. So, there you go. Let's wrap this up. All right, so there you go. That is the G.I. Joe O-Ring Cobra Officer vintage review. And even looking at these now, and I probably looked at this Cobra Officer more than almost any other figure, because this was one that I always had with me. That's how I know this is not my original. There is no way my original has lasted this long in such great shape. I got a couple of these, so I'm not even sure where I acquired this one from. But I gotta say, I absolutely love going through this again, looking at a lot of the stuff, and just seeing the detail that you completely missed as a kid, because once again, we were playing with our figures. We weren't adults collecting, looking at the detail. But I think it's great to go back and show what the designers, the makers, you know, all these guys, the stuff, the love that they were putting into these figures. It is beyond anything that we ever could have imagined back then because we were kids. Now we know the detail that these guys are doing. And I'm not talking about just the classified, I'm talking about all these toy makers, because now there's this competition with other manufacturers, other companies, especially the independents. They just put wonderful detail, just a lot of love into it. So anyway, there you go. Cobra Officer. If you need him, if you want him, if you just want to relive your childhood, please take a second, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I drop a wonderful, wonderful O-ring vintage review. I'm going to get out of here, but what I'm going to do is up here, you don't want to go anywhere because this is the Cobra review that you missed. And down here is a playlist of all the O-ring classic reviews that I've done. Take care.